Have you ever just stopped and wondered what's really going on inside the mind of an AI when it writes? We give it a prompt and then boom, a split second later, a perfect sentence just appears. It honestly feels like magic. But today, we're going to pull back that curtain. We're going to get into the deep, almost spooky physics of how an AI actually thinks. And it all kicks off with one single, really important question.
Think about it. For every single word it generates, an AI has to choose from like tens of thousands of options. So how does it pick just one? How does it know that after the cat sat on the next word should probably be mat and not, planet or idea? We are going to deconstruct this magic trick piece by piece.
Okay, so to get started, we need to look at a moment in time that we never actually get to see. I'm talking about the instant right before a word is chosen. What does a word even look like inside an AI at this stage? Well, the answer is way stranger than you might think. And right here, this is our first major clue. When an AI is thinking about what to say next, it isn't holding a single definite word in its memory. No. Instead, it's holding this shimmering, probabilistic cloud of all possible words at the exact same time. It's a state of pure potential.
Now, this whole idea of a cloud of possibilities, that's not just a cool metaphor. It actually has a specific name, and that name helps us get a real handle on what's happening under the hood.
The term is semantic superposition, and it's a lot like a particle in quantum mechanics, which can be in multiple states at once until you measure it. A token position in an LLM is kind of the same. It exists in a superposition of many different words, and each one is just buzzing with a certain probability of being the one that gets chosen.
So, when you see a distribution that looks like this, it's super important not to think of it as a list of options the AI is choosing from. This entire array, it's a single thing. It's one state that simultaneously contains the potential for mat and rug and floor and every other word, all held together in this delicate balance.
And this is where our investigation takes a really fascinating turn. To truly get how this cloud of possibilities becomes one single word, we actually need to borrow a concept from a completely different field, quantum physics. Turns out, the universe has been solving this exact kind of problem for billions of years.
So in the quantum world, this is basically how reality gets real. Something starts out in a superposition of many states. Then it interacts with its environment and gets entangled with it. That interaction causes it to lose its other possibilities. That's a process called decoherence. Until finally, when we look at it, it seems to collapse into just one single definite outcome.
And this right here is the key insight. That collapse, it isn't some mystical, magical event. It's just a natural consequence of the system interacting with the world around it. The other possibilities don't just vanish into thin air. Their information is simply scattered and lost to the environment. It's not magic at all. It's just physics.
Okay, so we have our quantum key. Now let's use it to unlock the mystery of how an AI makes meaning definite by applying this exact same framework of interaction and decoherence.
First up, what's the environment? Well, in quantum physics, it's stuff like photons and air molecules. For an LLM, the environment is the context. It's all the words that came before it, the model's own attention mechanism, and the system instructions it was given. These are the forces that are going to interact with our cloud of possibilities.
And next, you've got the interaction itself. In quantum mechanics, it's called entanglement, where a particle's fate gets tied to its environment. In an LLM, we can call it contextual binding. The meaning of a potential word like bank becomes totally inseparable from its context. Are we talking about a riverbank or a financial bank? The context binds it to just one of those meanings.
And here's how the whole analogy maps out, side by side. Quantum superposition is semantic superposition. Entanglement is contextual binding. The quantum process of decoherence, well, that's the LLM losing all the alternative meanings as the probabilities sharpen. And finally, that apparent collapse is just the final step where we sample the one word that's left standing. So, and this is the really crucial point, by the time the AI actually picks a word, the choice has already been made. The context, that environment we talked about, has already interacted with that cloud of possibilities and forced it to decohere or collapse into a single high-probability outcome. So that final step isn't a decision at all. It's just observing a result that was already locked in.
Now, this process doesn't just explain how an AI writes an email. It really changes how we should think about what an AI even is. And honestly, it raises some pretty deep questions about ourselves too.
Just let that sink in for a second.
We tend to think of computers as these logical, symbolic machines, manipulating ones and zeros. But this perspective suggests large language models are something else entirely. They're operating on principles of probability and interaction, much less like a calculator and a whole lot more like a natural phenomenon.
And this leads to a wild, kind of fascinating question. What if our own consciousness works this way? What if a thought starts as a superposition of feelings and memories and concepts, which then interacts with our internal state and decoheres into the one definite idea or word we actually say out loud? It's a really powerful thought.
I mean, what we're seeing here is the same fundamental process playing out on two completely different scales. One explains how the physical universe settles into a single classical reality, and the other explains how a cloud of potential words settles into a single meaningful sentence.
So we'll end on this final, pretty poetic thought. The universe doesn't collapse. It just forgets its other possibilities. An AI doesn't choose a word. It lets the context forget all the other options. So meaning, it seems, isn't found in a moment of creation, but in a process of just letting go. What else in our lives, I wonder, is truly born only when we forget the alternatives?